What's up, everybody? It's your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you in the Green Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged. And we got somebody on the phone. I'll let him introduce himself. Who we have?
What's going on? Dave Smith here.
We got Dave Smith on the phone. For the people who don't know who Dave Smith is, just tell them a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a stand-up comedian out of New York City, and my debut comedy special is Libertas. It's coming out on September 11th, available on GasDigitalNetwork.com. And I do a couple popular podcasts. Legion of Skanks and Part of the Problem. And that's me.
How you doing today, man?
Good, man. Good. Having a good day. How about yourself?
Just trying to avoid Hurricane Irma. Just trying to stay safe out here. Trying to stay safe.
Oh, you're down there in that in the path?
Yeah, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, so I'm kind of in his way, So I'm upper North Florida,
Okay,
but it's yeah.
But still, so I was talking to a friend of mine who's in Central Florida the other day, and he was saying like the thing about Florida is that they are like super prepared for hurricanes. Like he's talking about like just like if it is going to hit somewhere, you're saying like these Floridians are really ready for hurricanes.
Yeah.
But that was just one man.
No, that's a fact. I mean, we don't really. I mean, to be honest, it's people out here like throwing parties on the weekend, and it's supposed to be the hurricane. People like in Florida don't take it serious. Like they're like we're so prepared. Like we don't care. Like hurricanes coming. Like hey, we went to the club on Saturday. So that's how it really is in Florida. It's not nobody takes it serious.
I live in New York, and we were so unprepared for Hurricane Sandy. A hurricane to New York, it's like a wild animal. Like, we just have no idea what to do with that. And, like, you're really talking about people who don't own even, like, cars normally getting flooded. They're like, the subway's out? We have no clue.
Yeah,
but you guys are more prepared than we were.
Yeah, I remember seeing Sandy thing, and I remember people from Florida like making jokes about it. I'm like, yo, horrible. People was like, oh, they had nothing. Like it was nothing down there because like we had a hurricane last year, and I got honest guys on the truth. The governor, he was like, everybody need to escape. If you're in a red zone, you need to get out there now because we're not saving you. And he called us idiots. He was like, if you don't get out, if you're being an idiot, we're not saving you. And I'm like, wow. And I was laughing. Then I went and looked on the map, and I was in the red zone. And I was like, who cares? So we don't really. That's how it is in Florida. Nobody cares about hurricanes, but hopefully everything is safe.
You remember I feel like it was back in the '90s. It was like Jerry Falwell and those like religious right people. Like when there'd be a hurricane, they'd like blame it on like the gays or something, like the lack of like family values in America, and it was always ridiculous. But after like the Texas one and this one, I'm kind of entertaining the possibility that God might be pissed at us.
I mean, he might be. I mean, because it was crazy because I think I was looking at I was on Instagram and I had seen that another storm had developed called Jose. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And then right behind Jose, I forget some other hurricane had formed. So it was like 3 hurricanes in a row. I'm like, yeah, that's getting real spicy out here. So you might be right. You might be onto something. It might be a little anger from God.
If you start looking around the country, you go, yeah, I can't really blame God. He has the right to be pissed.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, just everything from political or just everything. It's a weird world. And I actually had a couple questions for you about that. Before we get into like all those, I was just curious, outside of comedy or outside anything political, what are you into? Just like regular day life stuff. What interests you?
I mean, like my life is pretty like I'm obsessed with like politics and philosophy and like stuff like that. So I'm like I always stay like super up on current events and stuff. I'm kind of that, and then besides that, just like spending time with my girlfriend and hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But I'm very consumed by what I do. So like being a comedian and being like in that world that consumes most of my energy.
Since that consumes most of your energy, does it ever affect like I don't know, like because I know when you're a comedian, your mind is always running. So you ever like in a comedian mind state when you should be like I don't know on a date with your girlfriend, but you see something like ooh, I can make a joke about that. Like, does that ever happen?
Yes, constantly. That's my entire life. Yeah, it's not like it's just like a way you kind of become, and then you can't really turn it off because it's like like you're just kind of hyper aware of things, and you're always looking at it from that angle. But she knew that coming in. She knew what she got involved in.
Is it hard to make friends like that, or are your friends mostly like comedian guys?
all of my friends are comedians. That's like basically who I hang out with at this point is comedians. And most comedians I know, that's what happens with them too. It's just kind of like you're with these guys every night doing shows and hanging out. And it just becomes easier that way. But I have like a few other friends. But I do tend to like most of my other friends are like artists too, like a few musicians. And then I know like a few, like in the podcast world, I know a whole bunch of people who are like great podcast hosts and stuff like that.
When you was growing up, were you always like comedian minded?
Yeah, I think I figured out pretty early in life I was going to be the funny kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like at least by third or fourth grade, that was it. I was always like a terrible student, and I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I just was like, I did like just enough to get by, and then was always kind of like, a bit of a messed up kid. But I always remember, I was funny, but I also hung out with a group of really funny people. Like, we were all funny.
So when you were like in high school, is that what you knew you wanted to do when you get older? Like, I'm gonna be comedian, or I'm gonna,
I didn't, I loved comedy. I loved stand-up comedy so much. Like, I used to get at like Blockbuster Video, if they had any DVD that was stand-up comedy, I had gotten that. I was like, I loved like Chris Rock specials in the 90s, like Bring the Pain and Bigger and Blacker, Chappelle. I loved Seinfeld, The Simpsons, like all that stuff. I just grew up and I loved it, but it never really like seemed like a thing you could actually do. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, it was like, well, famous people do comedy.
Yeah.
It's like Eddie Murphy does comedy. I can't go do comedy. And then when I was I dropped out of college, and when I dropped out, I like just ended up going to the comic strip. Oh, it was a comedy club in New York City, and it was like it just seemed real to me. I was like, oh, like people can do this. There's like comedy clubs around, and then I wanted to start. And then a buddy of mine, Louis J. Gomez, who was a really hilarious comic, he was doing it, and I was friends with him, and he convinced me to start. And then I've been sucked into this world ever since.
Well, now that you bring up like all the people that like you've seen, like Eddie Murphy, all those people, have you ever met? You don't have to name your names, but have you ever met anybody that you were like, oh, this is one of my favorite comedians, or not even just comedian, just a celebrity in general, one of your favorite people, and you met them, and it was kind of disappointment because either they weren't how you expected, or they were a-hole or something like that?
Okay, let me think of that. I mean, I've had good asshole one. I don't really know if I have that, but when you're in New York at the at like if you are at any of the big clubs, you end up meeting like all these guys because they all come in to work out their stuff. Like if you hang out at the Comedy Cellar, like Chris Rock and Louis C.K. and all those guys come in, and Chappelle and I don't really like. I haven't really met those guys as much, but I've gotten to see them live a lot. Say hi to them and stuff like that, which is cool. But I've gotten to meet people like I got to meet Joe Rogan, and like I'm friends with him, and there's like some other, there's some cool people that I really like looked up to who I've had the chance to meet. I don't have any any great story of one of them just being a dick to me, but now I almost kind of wish I did.
Yeah,
I just want to make one up.
I thought that would just be the worst.
Chris Rock cursed me out.
I thought that would just be the worst, like being a fan of somebody and you're like, oh my god, I'm such a big fan. They're like, hey, go suck my dick. You're like, whoa, like I thought you were cool. So yeah, I always curious of like when you're famous, do you ever have those encounters with people or whatnot? Well, have you ever had on the opposite side? Have you ever met somebody and they were what you expected?
Look, what you see, like, and it really was to me one of the most amazing things ever. But I was like maybe a year in comedy, and I was doing a show at Stand Up New York, and Chappelle dropped in, just unannounced, which is like he'll just come in unannounced sometimes, and just like do a set, and this is like this is like 10 years ago, Chappelle, like it was like fresh in the like. The moment of all this, like, oh, he's left the show.
Yeah.
It was like, and he came in and did like an hour and a half of just like the most amazing comedy I've ever seen. And it's not stuff that he even put out on these specials. It wasn't stuff that was on the previous specials. It was just like an hour and a half of stuff that's just gone in the world that he'll probably never put out. But it was like the most, just like it was like everything you wanted it to be. Like the Chappelle Show came to you. And it was like a cool moment. It was a cool moment. It was like a year in, like a 23-year-old kid, and you're just sitting here on a show with this guy. And then I had to follow him. I was next. And I mean, so it's like he me, and I went up there and I was like, man, I made some joke about like, man, I look really bad, or my credits sound really bad after Dave Chappelle or something like that, and it got a laugh. And then literally everyone just broke into conversation about how Dave Chappelle had just come, and I just bombed, just a miserable bomb. But it's still, in hindsight, like one of the coolest stories.
Was that your worst?
I've had in comedy.
Was that your worst bomb in your career?
Nah, I've had a few hot ones. You can't. I've been doing it like 11 years. You can't do it that long without that. It's like asking a boxer if he's been hit.
Yeah.
Like it happens, but you try to make it happen as little as possible.
Do you think what you say is true? Like, as the more famous or the more notoriety you get, the less you might bomb.
Yeah, well, there's like levels. You know what I'm saying? So like, I have my fan base at this point, right? So if I go out to a show where I'm headlining and my fans come out to see me, yeah, it's a different energy because they already know you. But every night when I'm out in New York City at a club, that's like, they don't know who I am. I'm not like famous on that level. But if you're famous on like Chris Rock, Jerry Seinfeld, you're one of those guys. Yeah, like those guys, every time they touch a stage, people are, giving you a standing ovation just to be there. And they already know you're funny. You don't have to like prove to them you're funny. They're like, we know you. We grew up with you. So, yeah, it's like that's the level everyone's trying to get to.
Okay. And now that you're bringing up all these people, I always ask this to comedians rather, because I feel like those people blew up not in this decade at all. Like the Jerry Seinfelds, the Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle's, they're not from this decade. So when they blew up, it was more, I guess, like leeway on what you could say and what you can't say. But now today, in a very much more PC world, you can't say a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Dave Chappelle did his stand-up act. He said a couple jokes, and people weren't messing with him, and they like tried to I remember seeing like it was a whole thing like contacting Netflix and getting his special taken down. So how do you feel about just like comedy becoming more, or people trying to make comedy become more PC?
Well, I don't think, like, to me, Chappelle's doing what Chappelle does, and it just shows how the culture is changing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I hate that PC authoritarian stuff. I mean, it's like, I just hate non-funny people talking about funny people and what they should do. I don't care if you were offended. That joke that Chappelle closed on the Cosby joke, that he gives but he rapes, and he rapes more than he gives more than he rapes, that was a brilliant joke, and I don't care what any person who's not funny thinks about that. It's like, by the way, like, the left-wing political correct thing has gotten so twisted and crazy that it's like these white chicks lecturing black guys about what they can say. Like, what is that?
That's a fact.
I mean, like what are you even like? What does that stand for? No, I think Chappelle and Chris Rock and all those guys, they just do what they do, which is point out what's hilarious and what's absurd, and they do it brilliantly. And then everybody, like, now we have this whole like generation of people who are like so like pearl clutchy, like, oh my god, no, he said something. I mean, come on, man. Like, tragedy is funny.
It's a fact. That's a fact. Tragedy is funny. And now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of want your take on this, because I always talk about this with people. I feel like in today's society, people are so PC that I feel like being PC to a certain extent will cut off discussion. Like, for example, I feel like if people were PC since the beginning of time, there would be no progression into society. Like, let's say during the 60s, the 50s, when being racist was like cool and legal, like you can, it was like segregated or whatnot. I feel like if people were PC at that time, which it wasn't cool to say black people on the same level or women on the same level or whatnot, people would be like, you can't say that because that's not politically correct to say, because it was almost politically correct to say the wrong thing. So I feel like if people were not like progressive and forward to be like, no, I think this is that, and people would be like, no, I disagree, let's have a conversation about it. I feel like today, if I were to say something like, hey, I feel like this is wrong because this and that, you could call it a name rather than, I disagree, let's have a conversation about it. You agree with that?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, like, amen. There's something about, it's weird because we live in this world. There's a really dangerous thing, too, with this political correct stuff that you do is you drive racism underground. And there's something dangerous about that. Then it's not where you can see it. Mm-hmm. It's not out in the light. You can't have an argument with it. Like you're saying, you can't have a conversation with it. It'd be shocking to people today if they go on YouTube and just watch videos of the way people used to talk about race, as you were getting at, like a few decades ago. And it's like, yeah, there weren't these rules. I point this video out to people. Okay, so you can find it on YouTube. It's Martin Luther King in like 1968. I think it's a few months before he gets murdered. And he's on Meet the Press. And this is like a pre-political correctness world. So they're asking him questions that, like, in our world, you're like, I can't believe a journalist just asked that question. You know, questions like things that would be like, what do you say to the charge that the Negroes are an angry people, not capable of living in the society? You know, like questions like that. And Martin Luther King doesn't go like, oh my God, I can't believe you said. He doesn't storm off. He doesn't do that. He calmly responds, and he goes, some Negroes are angry and some Negroes are happy. Some white folks are angry and some white folks are happy. He goes, if you've experienced more angry Negroes, maybe that's because the Negroes have been victims of oppression for years. And he just beats them. He just beats them with his argument. And you know what? He won over the country. Like, he really did. Go ask most people what their opinion on Martin Luther King is. They love the guy. It's like, you can win the argument. If truth is on your side, you don't need to shut the other person up. Let them speak. Let them embarrass themselves, you know?
And I feel like
after a while, people are watching that, and they're like, Martin Luther King's right.
Yeah, and I feel like being so PC is almost like it's turning reality into like fantasy almost. It's like they say certain things where it's like you can't expect that not to be true or that not to be said. Like I'm trying to think. For example, for example, I watched your stand up and you mentioned the Trump grab him by the pussy thing. Like you made a good point. Like I've heard so much crazy. Like being a man, like the stuff that I've said to my friends, you know. And I understand because I know some people are like, oh, he's the president, he can't say that. But I can understand if he was like on the podium, he was like, yeah, I'll grab by the pussy. I was like, oh, that'd be a little different. But he was like in a private conversation. In private conversations, I mean, I've said like, if I see a girl and I'm on the phone with my friend, I'm like, hey, man, what? You know how it is. And I don't know, I just feel like,
God, I mean,
yeah.
Yes, and most women know this too. Like how men talk about sex, about women when they're with other men. I mean, come on, dude. You know, there's something also that I find kind of culturally interesting that this whole like value of like, oh my God, you never say anything inappropriate and political correctness and always mind your P's and Q's. Just I gotta say, it's an incredibly white cultural value. It's not like look, I grew up in Brooklyn in the 90s. There's a lot of different types of people around. That is not something that you find in the black community. Like oversensitivity to like saying the wrong word. It's really not. It's like an upper middle class white value. The left wing people, they claim like they want to be multicultural or whatever, but they're not like going into black neighborhoods saying, hey, what can I learn from your culture? They want like their culture with brown faces attached to it.
That's a fact because like when he said like going back to the grandma the pussy thing, me being as a black person, I'm like, wow, every black man in America is finna love Trump because that's something a rapper would say. I'm like, this nigga is like, he's a 90s rapper now. Like, it's crazy. I'm sitting there like, I'm gonna have to vote for this man after that. So I'm just sitting there like, this nigga is a legend for that one. And going back to the culture thing, I feel like words, I feel like it's getting so PC to the point where saying certain things, like, let's say racist, homophobic, or Uncle Tom, coon, things that black people call each other. I feel like those words are thrown around so loosely that they're losing value. Like when you call somebody a racist, I feel like it should mean that they're a racist. Or you call somebody a coon or Uncle Tom, that should mean that they're doing coon or Uncle Tom stuff. Or if you say somebody is culture appropriating, it should mean they're doing something really devastating to another person's culture that's like shouldn't be done. But I feel like it's thrown around so loosely that the words mean nothing anymore. And I feel like that's dangerous in a society where a lot of that is actually going on, but you're throwing it around to things that shouldn't be, attached to it. You agree?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it seems like now they have to move to like white supremacist or Nazi. It's like they got to kind of find something next because everyone's just almost like it's like you're making these terms not mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a racist? Like, look, everybody has their own personal like bigotries on some level. Nobody's an angel, and everybody has feelings about different groups of people. If we're being like completely honest, and there's a funny thing this is why I was saying before, it's like a white value. If you actually hang out with other people, so many of these left-wing white people, they only hang out with white people. If you hang out with other people, here's one thing I think as a white person you'll learn. Hang out with other cultures of people, and you'll realize that they don't operate under those same politically correct rules. You sit down with a black guy, they're very quick to tell you like Asians are like this, Spanish people are like this, black guys are like this, white guys are like this. You sit down with an Asian guy, same thing. It's like white people are the ones who are sitting there going like, oh no, you can't say this and you can't say that. And it's just like, I don't know. I just see it as a way. It's almost like you're imposing your weird culture on everybody else.
And not to,
And like you said, it's like.
no, keep going. No, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, and it's like kind of like a weak culture. It's like, dude, this isn't even really the important issues. Like, who cares if your feelings are hurt? And when I was saying before, like, racist, like, what is it? Are you saying, like, it's somebody who's, like, said something mean once, somebody who has an opinion you don't agree with, or are you saying it's somebody who's, like, treating black people shitty at work? Like, someone who's actually doing something, someone who's not giving someone a job, or someone who's, like, putting, you know, like, what are we talking about here? Like, are we talking about, like, are upper middle class white girls' feelings being hurt really the problem, or is it the fact that we have, like, a prison industrial complex that's locking up, like, poor black kids? I'd probably say let's focus on the latter.
I'm glad you actually brought that up about like certain white people talking about things, and it's like, do you even like really hang with us? Because I was on Twitter, Instagram, one of those, and this white girl posted a picture of another white girl with braids. She was like, "This is disgusting. We should not be doing this. That's culture appropriating to black people. That's their and this that." And they were just, and I'm thinking to myself, like, is that really culture appropriating? Because I'm thinking in my head, like, I don't really care about Asian people or their culture, but I like Asian food, and am I appropriating at that point?
Right.
So I don't know.
And isn't that almost like the beautiful thing where we all like kind of borrow from each other's cultures?
Yeah.
I don't even get the argument of that. It's like, so what are we saying that like classical music influenced jazz? So what is that like? Culture, or you know, like jazz influenced rock and roll. Is anybody stealing here? I mean, I don't know. I think that's just kind of like
this.
How people grow.
This what I would say is culture appropriating. Like, for example, I remember a couple years ago, Miley Cyrus was doing her twerking. She was rapping. She was doing all this and that. Right? I'm like, okay, this is weird. Couple months ago, I don't know if you read this or not, but out of nowhere, she was like, rap is bad. I will never let my kids listen to rap. I only listen to one rapper. Rap is like, she was just like demonizing rap. And I was like, wow, so you make money off of us. You did all this thing off of us. But then when you're not benefiting from us no more, now you're just like, rap is bad. I always look at that more as cultural appropriating because she benefited off of us. And then when it came to talking about us, she's like, I don't rock with them anymore. That hurt me. You know, that's something that I don't like. I don't care about a white girl wearing dreads.
I certainly understand not liking that. I think the images of her twerking were punishment enough for her. But yeah, I mean that's just insane. That like you can't. That's just like being a complete hypocrite, though. You know what I mean? Like or like it's just like you can't live this life. You can't be having your fans put their fingers inside of you and then turn around and go like, "Hey, clean up your lyrics."
Yeah, I agree. Well, have you ever went to the stage recently and you thought about how I can't say that because I might get crucified for saying this joke?
Well, I always like my kind of, you know, my goal is always to see like how close I can take it to that, and still, get the room laughing. But like, yeah, I mean, during this election, I had, you know, like I had times where, you know, I always come, and you said you watched some of the specials, so it's like, you know, I always make fun of like all sides. Like I'll trash Trump and Hillary and all of them because I find them all hilarious and ridiculous, and that'll just. I mean, during the elections, man, people just get so ridiculous and emotional that, like, it's a weird thing where, like, if you make one comment that's like criticizing Hillary Clinton, then they project this whole thing onto you, like, well, you're a Trump supporter who's doing this and this, and then vice versa, same thing with the Trump people, and it's just so I definitely, you know, I triggered my fair share of people, but it was pretty fun for me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually brought up in your special, like, even though you can feel however you want by Trump, the guy has a lot of entertaining moments. As like somebody who writes comedy, you can't like for example, like he could be talking or debating with Hillary or something like that, and she's like, oh, she gives like this whole big word speech, and he's like, you're stupid, you don't have the stamina to keep up with me. What are you talking about? You know, and it's just hilarious. He's a hilarious guy.
My favorite moment in all of the debates, and it really hurt me because I actually really liked Rand Paul. I thought he was the best Republican by far. But it was Rand Paul, who's like a doctor, you know, he was like the Republican who tried to reach out to the black community and talk about like reducing mandatory minimums, and like the kind of like intellectual one on the Republican field who's like anti-war, anti-mass incarceration, you know, and he's sitting there, and Donald Trump, you know, he is going off about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and Trump's like, you know, the problem with this deal is it doesn't address China's currency manipulation. We need to get China to agree to reduce their currency, blah, blah, blah. And Rand Paul just goes, He goes, should we point out that China's not involved in the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Oh man.
And, it's just this, and then Donald Trump looks over at Rand and he goes, "What are you at? Like 1% in the polls?" And then they just moved on. And it was like, I think Donald Trump might have won that exchange.
He wins. I feel like he
was.
Yeah, I would agree because he wins because like he's like he doesn't go to facts. He just start resorting to like roasting people at that point. Like he just started roasting people and it's just like crazy.
It's just like some alpha male thing. It's like he's just chumping some guy at a party. You know, like it was just like a bigger, tougher guy who you just saw chump another guy. Like, I can't really look at that guy the same anymore.
I knew Trump was a different type of debater, type of dude when I seen the little thing where somebody was like, John McCain's a hero, and he was like, he's not a hero. War heroes don't get captured. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this guy here is just ruthless. So yeah, he's good for entertainment writing.
That one.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. He's like I think the craziest one, objectively speaking, was the one where he like impersonated the person with a mental illness. You seen that one? That was wild.
The guy with the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, like again, it's like I just think, like yeah, that is pretty. That's not very classy. Let's say the least. And it's like it's kind of mean. But again, I'm just like not as concerned with mean. You know, the thing, like from my perspective, like I think like you know Obama never spoke anything but nice words. But like the guy was at war every day of his administration.
Mm-hmm.
He broke records for deportations. You know, he like mass incarceration continued under him. Like those are the things I care about more than like it's like if you're bailing out banks but like giving a nice speech, that doesn't really do it for me. And I'm not like a supporter of Trump at all, but like I do. It's like everyone's so offended by the fact that he says mean stuff. And it's just like a little bit of a weird thing. Like, do you know that deportations are down, by the way? No one's talking about that, but they're down. It's really strange. Like, it's not really, it seems to be all talk.
Yeah, I'm not a guy who, like a big Trump supporter either at all. But I think one thing out of everything that I can, appreciate, it seems that, I don't know, everything that comes from him is like, cause like you said in your special, like everybody's reading off the teleprompter. He's just winging it at this point, you know. Like it's coming from him, like it's from his mind, and I guess that's something that you have to appreciate.
Figure out, yeah. I think there's a big gap between like where politics was and where the culture is. You know, It's like these kind of robots in suit and ties who all speak the same, like God bless America and I drew this, and they like all the same motions, and no one just talks like a regular person. And Trump kind of did that. Like he was just loose. And I don't know, there's something interesting about that. Like it was just you know, if nothing else, you should try to at least like observe it and like learn from it a little bit. Like what's going on here? What is this guy doing?
I think what's going to be his downfall, though, in my opinion, is his ego. Because like I just see certain stuff he says, and I'm like, he's really just thinking about himself. Like I seen this video where he was at the Hurricane Harvey thing, and he was like outside. And he was like, "Hey everybody, it's a very great turnout. Everybody's out here supporting." I'm like, nigga, they don't got a house to go to. Where else they gonna be at? Of course they gonna be outside. So yeah, it's gonna be.
That was so surreal. It's always so surreal to see him talking about what a great turnout it is. It's just it's unreal. Look, I think Trump's in a terrible position right now. Like he's got so many enemies. I mean, he's got a huge portion of the country who just outright hates him. Hates his guts more than I've ever seen anyone hate a politician in my life. And then he's got like, you know, the Democratic Party hates him, the Republican Party hates him, the deep state, the CIA, the FBI, all those guys hate him. The mainstream media hates him. Hollywood hates him. You know, and then he's got his little base, which is shrinking by all the polling. It shows it keeps shrinking. And he's got this base that he promised the world to, which he absolutely cannot deliver on. Like he promised them this, like, I'm bringing back your jobs. There's going to be so much winning. We're going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to balance the budget. We're going to end the wars. We're going to, you know, he promised them all of this, and he can't deliver on any of it. But you know, I mean, look, he never really had a plan for any of it. But it's like, so he's in this position that's pretty bad, and also they've got a special investigator now who's investigating him, who's subpoenaing his family members, who's raiding his campaign heads. The FBI's raiding his campaign heads, you know, home. I mean, I couldn't see anything looking worse for a president than all of those things lined up.
I feel bad for supporters because his supporters are like the epitome of this Cat Williams joke I heard. I think he came out with a special in like 2013, and he was saying how black people was so like crazy for Obama 2008, like, oh, we won, just yelling at white people, just going to work, like, oh, nigga, we won. And he said 4 years later, 2012, he said they lost all the bass in his voice, like the nigga's trying. He don't got nothing else to do. So I feel like they're already at that point, not even a year in, just because see, like you said, he promised so much stuff that I don't think he thought he had a plan for. So it's just, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a plan for it.
But look, Obama, in a weird way, there was a similarity there, even though they're obviously very different people. Like, there was a similarity where Obama was an outsider who ran on, like, hope and change and this idea that we would, like, transfer and very specific goals that he wasn't able to accomplish. Like, you just, no matter how you feel about Obama, it was like, we're going to close Gitmo. We're going to end the war in Iraq. We're going to do, like, these things didn't happen. And then it's like, that's the reality. And it's not necessarily blaming him. If anything, I think Trump maybe demonstrates, like, how little power a president really has.
Yeah.
Because, look, he's come in and things, in terms of actual policy, they're like 1% different. Like, it's like, so I don't know how much a president can really do.
Well, Thursday, September 7, 2017, what's your thoughts on Trump's whole, I guess, presidency so far?
I mean, I think it's like an utter disaster. I don't know what, it's the Trump thing is like just a middle finger to the whole system, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like anything else. But like, if you look back at like what presidents promise to do and then what they actually do, it's never very close. And like, it's like he promised the world to a lot of people. He's probably exposed a lot. He's probably exposed a lot to a lot of different people in America. He's exposed a lot of things about the left and a lot of things about the right.
And the bad thing
I find that kind of interesting.
And the bad thing about him, maybe because you're more into politics than I am, so maybe you know their names, but not before Trump. I've never seen people really so focused on a president's cabinet. Like his cabinet, like everybody know everybody name, like Sean Spicer, or the Italian guy that was doing, like Kellyanne, like everybody's name. So it's just like he's set up for failure. Like it's nothing he could do right at this moment. Like I don't think there's anything he could do.
No, I think you're right. And they're investigating him now, and I have a tough time thinking they won't find something. Like they don't have to find what they're looking for. Like when Bill Clinton got impeached, it was because they were investigating him for Whitewater, and then they found out that he lied about the Monica Lewinsky thing just during the investigation. So if they're investigating you, and Trump's a guy who's been in the real estate development business for decades, I just don't believe there's not something there. Like there's probably something shady, something criminal in his past. So yeah, like I think you're right. I think in a weird way, like Trump probably did a lot to change American culture. I don't think he's actually changing American politics that much. So I think his presidency is going to be brought down. But like he probably did a lot to change the culture.
How so?
Well, just kind of like I don't know, like I think he drove just showing how far the divide is. That like there's this big portion of the country who thinks you just elected literally Hitler, and then there's another portion of the country who thinks this is the greatest thing ever. You kind of take a step back and you go, why are we even a part of the same country? Like, if we're that far apart that I think a guy's Hitler and you think a guy's Jesus, maybe we shouldn't even be a part of a thing together. Like, I don't know. There's just something interesting about that.
I think that's the thing. 2017 is to use extremes to describe, like hyperboles, basically, to describe something.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's getting to the point where, like, going back to what I was saying, losing value. Like, if somebody was to come to me and be like, Trump is a slave master, and I would just be like, you're devaluing what slavery was at this point, and so it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a little insulting to people who were really slaves.
Yeah,
that's actually a lot worse. And if you could pick being there or here, you'd pick here. So maybe it's not exactly the same thing. I mean, I remember so one of my left-wing friends posted on Facebook something about, he goes, when they were talking about the taking down the statues, and he was like, oh, you want to smash a symbol of slavery? Why don't you go smash a Walmart? And it's like, okay, listen, you may not like that Walmart doesn't pay their workers a higher wage, but like, it's kind of insulting to, I think, like the fact that slavery actually did exist, to just say like someone who's working at Walmart is a slave.
Yeah.
It's like, at what point are you being insulting to the guy who actually was a slave?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, just to say something like that. Was your friend white also? Yeah,
Yes,
that's
white liberal.
yeah, like if
Of
like
course.
yeah, for like a black person like me to see that, it's just like I wouldn't compare them as slaves because like like going back to it, you're just undermining what actually happened in slavery, you know. So I think that's really
Right.
wild. I think that's really wild, and I don't know. Do you get along with your liberal friends? I feel like your liberal friends don't like you. I feel like you say too much stuff that
I
people get them
I
mad.
find I find a way to get along with a lot of them. I'm like in the comedy world, like we're all kind of like brothers in that sense that we're doing kind of like the same thing together. And so like I do get along with a lot of left wing people. I mean, I'm in New York City, I have to, but I will say there's also a lot of people. There's a lot of people just like yourself. And like people like out there who are like I don't even know where I just from our conversation where I categorize you, but you're at least like somebody who's like I see the kind of nonsense on this side, I see the nonsense here. There's a lot more people like that. Like most people don't believe this like hyper left wing college nonsense that like all drunk sex is rape and microaggressions and all this like it's just like all of it is kind of nonsense. Like most people, like real people, and there are like real problems, right? Like we have communities all over the country where they're having like real problems, and they're not like stressed out about transgender bathrooms. That's a made up issue by college kids and politics. Like it's not real.
That's a fact. I feel like, I mean, you just don't understand how many times I've been called transphobic, and I didn't even say anything like slanderous. Like I'll say like an opinion that's not like, ooh, I hate them damn trainers. Like I didn't say anything. If I said that, I mean maybe, but like you say an opinion about something, maybe if you say I don't agree with that, Eric, I feel like that's not good to say, and I'm like, why? We have a conversation about it, then we can get to a medium, and I feel like that's what this country needs is more conversations because conversation in America is almost dead. It's just straight arguing and name calling and insulting instead of hey, let's have a conversation on why I think I'm right and I think you're wrong, and maybe we can understand both sides, and we can get something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, but last
and you're absolutely right, absolutely right. And the thing that you get it, what's so important about that is that you come from the realization of you go like, look, there's a good chance I'm not 100% right. I might be getting something wrong, so let me hear what you have to say. You hear what I have to say, and hopefully, like the truth will kind of rise up to the top. But if you just start saying to people like, oh, you say that, and now you're a Nazi. Now you're a Nazi if you say something like, I mean, like, it's like, you just can't, like, you can't treat the whole, like, middle of the country who might go, like, oh, we don't want, Mexicans flooding into our neighborhoods. Like, that's being a Nazi. It's not exactly the same thing. Like, I don't know.
No, I agree with you. And I actually have one more question before we get into the fan questions, and I want to ask you this specifically because I don't really have this conversation with white people like that. I usually have it with black people because it's certain conversations. I mean, I don't know, maybe you don't know this because you are white, but it's certain conversations that black people only have with black people. Like, let's say you say something and it may be true, we may agree. We're not going to agree in public with you. When we go home with the black friends, we're like, hey, he was right, but we didn't want to sound like that right there. Like, we do that all the time. So, not saying this is per se one of those things. Well, it kind of is. So this is why I kind of want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Confederate flag? Because it's a follow-up question after this.
Well, I guess I certainly understand where someone could say like, okay, I get completely why like a black person would be like, yeah, I don't want like tax dollars going to a building that has that flag because the South did fight for slavery, and that's kind of what the flag represents. But like, I can completely get that. On the other hand, I don't think that every single person who's defending the flag is defending slavery. I think a lot of them in their minds are like, nah, this is like our tradition and our pride and our this. You know what I heard? I believe it was Dan Carlin who said this. What I really liked is he said that there were a lot of different countries that like when they've had like a genocide or like slavery or like some terrible thing and they abolish that and they end it. Sometimes they would keep the flag, but they would like change it, like put a mark on it, and then that mark symbolizes like that we're anti-slavery, kind of. I think there's like I'd rather us not go to go to a civil war over this image from the Civil War. You know what I mean? But like I get the only thing I would say to it is like I could also completely understand a black person making that argument about just the American flag. Like it's not like slavery was only in the South.
That's exactly where I was going. That's exactly where I was going with that. Keep going.
There's a park up in so my buddy Lewis lives in Harlem, and I was literally walking up there the other day. It's not the other day; it's like a year ago. But I just remember this moment. But I was walking up there, and it's like I look over, and it's like there's like a park, like a public park, and then like a basketball court, and it's like, a bunch of like, like, I don't know, maybe like 11, 12-year-old black kids playing basketball. I just look over at the thing, and it's like Thomas Jefferson Park. And you're like, okay, well, I could see someone objecting to that too. Like, it's all, I don't know exactly where you draw the line, but at a certain point, I also do say, like, this is the history of America. I don't know if we're going to be able to tear down every image of the past,
Yeah, where I was going to go with that was, I feel like if you protest against the Confederate flag, I feel like you also have to keep that same energy for the American flag, because if you say, I can't respect the Confederate flag because of slavery, cool, but you stand and you respect the American flag, which your grandmother, if you're black, probably couldn't go to the same restroom as your white friend grandmother, or your grandfather couldn't do a lot of stuff the same as your white friend grandfather also. So I feel like it's just very hypocritical when some people just like protest the Confederate flag, and especially when white people do it, because I'm like, okay, you're doing it for the same reasons black people, but you're,
and it's almost like they absolve the North in some weird way. Like, it's like, oh, it was all on you.
Yeah.
Like, it was all on you. We never did anything, kind of. Like, and it's like look, I think it's also like, it's kind of up to interpretation. Like, I could also see like some black guy who's like, marched in the civil rights movement, looking at that flag and going like, that flag represents to me us getting the Civil Rights Act passed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It can represent what it represents to you. Both of them are kind of fair arguments. All of those things happen. Like, slavery and Jim Crow happened. The Civil Rights Movement also happened. So I kind of don't know, but I would say what I hate about this thing, it just becomes such a hot button emotional thing, and I would just rather see the energy like spent on something precise and effective.
Yeah.
Like, repeal the war on drugs. End the war on drugs. It destroys black communities. End the war on drugs. Stop throwing people in jail for nonviolent crimes. Like, that's like very specific. It's policy, and let's do that. Pulling down a flag doesn't actually change anybody's life.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, that's more like my thing on it.
And I agree with you with the flag not changing anybody's life things, because it really confuses me when I see news topics over Kaepernick sitting down for the flag and people getting mad over it. And I'm like, why is this a news topic? Like, if he wants to do that, then cool. Why are you getting so like angry about it? And I had a conversation with my friend Nate, and he basically said that he thinks it's disrespectful for anybody to stand for the flag. He said, what if that was somebody, mom sitting behind him, and her son died in a war or something like that? And I think it's always weird when people like correlate the flag just to the troops. And I said, why do you do that? He said, well, because they represent America. And I said, okay, well, let's say right next to that mom is a mom who lost her son to her son getting killed by a cop, and it wasn't justified, because I've suffered police brutality. So if she want to reference that to the troops, she could do that to the cops, because the cops are just American as troops, if you ask me. So I feel like it's just really weird when people get mad and just like, ooh, it's about the troops, it's about the troops. When it's like, I don't think like somebody like Colin Kaepernick or just anybody that sits down for the thing is saying, oh, I'm sitting down because I hate them damn troops. That's not the reason why they're doing it. So I don't know how you got any thoughts on that.
No, I completely agree with you. I like completely agree with you. I mean, down to the point of calling the cops a military. I mean, they even have the military equipment at this point. Like,
Yeah.
It's not even a stretch at all. It's like, and yeah, look, I mean, again, like you said, like both of those, I'm not saying either one of those things couldn't be real. Like, both those moms could be sitting there and feeling that way, but that doesn't really prove that that's not getting down even to the argument. It's like, look, he has a right, of course he has a right to do that, and if he wants to raise an issue, raise an issue. My only problem with Colin Kaepernick is it's like, dude, if you're going to come out against a police state, against mass incarceration, and then you're going to put a Castro image on your jacket, it's like, dude, just read a little bit up more on that, because that's like just crazy, man. That's crazy. These people are like talking about like police brutality, and then you're going to wear a Che Guevara t-shirt. Like, read up on those guys, man. You can't even disagree with that government without getting thrown in jail. So, like, that bugs me. Don't be a hypocrite about it. If you're going to swing big like that, be a little bit more precise.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's like, yeah, we have a huge problem. We're 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's prison population. We have a huge, huge police problem in this country. So there's no, like, that's good to call attention to.
As a fact. And just ending on him, I feel like, yeah, you're right. Maybe like a little bit of stuff he does may not be maybe a little flawed, but why I appreciate him is because not only does he, I guess, draw attention to stuff like that, he also puts money into it. So I feel like if you're doing something like that,
well, that's a very fair point.
yeah. So yeah, maybe he does need to read up, like you said, but I just appreciate the fact that he's just not doing it for, I guess, attention or something like that. He's actually donating money and doesn't even have a job right now. So I have to, like condone him for doing that right there. But yeah, let's get into the fan questions. We can end this. Let me see. You actually had a one great fan question from Young NATO. He said, "A very big fan of yours, but I have a question. Who's your favorite porn star?"
My favorite porn star. I loved that Sasha Grey chick for a long time. She was great. I don't really know porn stars' names like that. I know a lot of my friends are like they could name everyone. I could probably only name a handful of porn stars.
So we're going with Sasha
But I
Grey.
always remember that one. She was hot, Sasha Grey.
Okay. Well, hey man, I think this was a really great interview. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, man, just like I said before, my debut comedy special comes out on September 11th. Dave Smith Libertas. You can get it at gasdigitalnetwork.com, and all my stuff's up there. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like definitely, I don't say this a lot, but I feel like in the near future or sometime around the end of the year, we have to do another one of these. I feel like you have very good conversation skills. So, yeah, I really did enjoy this.
Okay, awesome. Absolutely, man. Let me know. I'd love to do it.
All right, well, we're going to close this interview out, and y'all already know I say what I mean what I say. Haters are going to hate, and players are going to play. Holla at your boy.